Hello, my sensational students. Welcome to Bloom and Great Education. My name is Meredith. Today's lesson is suitable for Year 5 students who are preparing for the Gifted and Talented test. It is a writing lesson, and it's another one of my feedback lessons where we look at one of my students' work, we look at what they've done well and areas that they can improve on, and that in turn helps your own writing because you're learning of their mistakes and their wins, and then you can pop that into your writing for next time. This is part of the Risking Robots series. So I've put a couple of lessons into this series. One is an introduction on my unique ideas. The next one is describing robots, and you will see that this student has done a really good job at picking up those lessons in his writing. Maybe we'll just get straight into it and I will show you those things as we go. So I'm going to start off by reading my student's story to you, and then we'll go through it and we'll have a chat about it. This is the stimulus that my student was asked to write to for 25 minutes, which is the requirement for the GAT test. So we've got the robot and the farmers. And here is his writing sample. Whoosh, the fierce wind whistled on the solid metal of the robot's gigantic body. There he sat, plucking ripe wheat from the farm's massive field. He looked at his owner, who was on the veranda of his rotted wood house, chewing lazily on a strand of wheat. Oh, how he wished he could do that. He wished he could be free. He then gazed at the kids and people and their happy faces, running, talking, playing. After a long time looking about, the metal man noticed everyone running for cover. He had no idea what they were doing. Suddenly, a flash of light was followed with a boom. Metal Man peered behind him to find a pile of ash. Immediately, a jolt struck him. The Metal Man didn't melt. Instead, his eyes changed to the color of eerie red. His head turned around at a weird angle to face the man's house. His eyes began to smoke as if he had a full jar of jalapenos. Then he shot a laser at the poor unsuspecting victim, who was now just a pile of black pile of ash. He then marched to the fence, burning it to smithereens. This was it, the end of the human race. He terminated everything in his way. Nobody could stop him. Okay, so he has done a wonderful job. So one of the lessons that I did in the series, which I will link below, is about Iron Man, not the comic Iron Man. This is a story by Ted Hughes, which is an excellent story, which I recommend that you read. And when we were developing our vocabulary for writing this story, we looked at one of the pages of this Iron Man story and pulled out some of the great descriptive vocabulary in it. So I can see that student has taken some of that vocabulary out of that story, which is wonderful. It's what you want to do is steal from successful writers. And that doesn't mean take out a whole paragraph and call it yours, but if you want to take a word here or a word here and use it to create your own stories, and that's great, because we already know that Ted Hughes is a successful writer. That's why he's got a book. So we want to take those things, just elements, just a few words here and there, to make our own writing as successful as his. I really like the description of this introduction. The fierce wind whistled through the solid metal of the robot's gigantic body. So straight away, he's doing a great job of showing, not telling, what we've got. We've got this gigantic robot. We've got this solid metal. And I like the quaintness of plucking ripe wheat. That's a beautiful introduction. And then we sort of got this build up into the problem where he's got this envy of the humans, wishing he could chew lazily on a strand of wheat, wishing he could run and talk and play like the humans are. And then we get here into the thing that changes in the story. So I assume, and it doesn't really matter. So the student hasn't made it hugely clear exactly what's happening. I assume it's a thunderstorm. It could be an alien invasion for all I know, but that doesn't really matter because we've got this flash of light, this boom, which changes things in the story. And immediately a jolt struck him and fries all the wires in his head. And now he's turned into this sweet, happy robot who wishes he could chew wheat like the other humans do, into this evil robot. So his eyes changed to an eerie red. Now, if you just said red, then that wouldn't tell us as much about the robot. If it was a cheery red or a lollipop red, then that'd be like, oh, it's a happy robot. But eerie is like a Halloween scary kind of a robot. That's an evil robot. His head turned around at a weird angle. So that's a little bit like when you get in horror movies, like in The Exorcist, and they're like turn their head around and they're like behind you, but like this, but like turned around like all the way. And that's freaky for like that's what they always do in those Exorcist movies because humans should not have their head all the way back around. So doing that is a good way of showing that he's like turned evil. His eyes began to smoke, so it's getting even worse. Smoke is typically a bad thing. Fire is typically a bad thing. Like a full jar of jalapenos. So jalapenos are those really hot chilies. And then he shot a laser at the poor unsuspecting victim who was now a big pile of ash. So he's killed his first victim. Then he marches on, burning it to smithereens. This was the end of the human race. He terminated everything in his way. So this student has done an excellent job of describing his robot, turning his robot into this from this sweet robot into this evil robot. And I suspect, thinking about where the story could have improved, I suspect he ran out of time. He needed one more paragraph in there. If he had, say, the 42 minutes of NAPLAN, it would have been a slightly better story. It's still very good, but it just needed a little bit more time to just, at the end, smooth things out. It's a big shame that you only get 25 minutes because 25 minutes in the GAT test, because it's not enough. Really, it's not enough time, but I assume that they do 25 minutes because pretty much you can show what you can do in 25 minutes. And then when they've got 5,000 students writing samples to write, they want to try and get through them quickly. But it is, in general, it's a shame to constrict any of your writing with time limits because, like in this example, he doesn't have time to show the brilliance of his story could have been, like to get up to that, just that little bit extra level that he could have had. So coming back to looking at the areas that this student could have improved, it's in here. We need a little link. This would have been better. This is just me nitpicking. His first poor unsuspecting victim. This would have been better if this was his owner. That's just me nitpicking, but victim is still a good word, but the first thing you do is destroy your owner. Like that's a very evil robot thing to do. It's like even if you like human slaves, the first thing I'm going to do is get my owner, kind of a thing. So that's just me nitpicking that. I would have liked to have seen that. Okay, so we need a paragraph. We need a paragraph in here which helps us to smooth out him going from suddenly being this. He was a good robot, he's turned into an evil robot, and now he's gone on to destroy all of mankind. Why has he gone on to destroy all of mankind? So I need a little bit more information in here about why this robot has gone on to do that. So let me have a think about what we could have done to link that together. And I'm just going to have a bit of a think aloud right now because that's one of our good teaching strategies, that I tell you what's inside my head. As a successful writer, you're hearing what I'm thinking. Okay, so we need a little bit of information about exactly what's happened. So we need to say something about his wires have been fried, or maybe like his computer chip has fried, and that is why he's suddenly gone berserk. And so you give robots commands. So the commands have changed to like a destroy mode. And anything in his path now needs to be destroyed. Okay, who is now just a pile of ash. He then marched to the fence, burning it to smithereens, which is the line from up here. And then I'm bringing in this bit of information up here, which just clarifies exactly what happened. So following his fried computer chip commands, burn, burn, burn. He marched on. I'm wondering if I can think of a synonym for march. He, don't want to use trudged, that's wrong. Strode, thudded, strong words. He's a strong robot. Okay, so let me stop and talk to you about what I'm thinking. So I think that it is too hard. What he said up here is that he goes on to destroy the whole human race. We've got this little robot on a little farm, and then we've got him destroying the whole human race. And he could go on to destroy the whole human race if we had many, many, many pages of time to build up to that. And then probably like what happens in the Iron Man, the army comes out and they try to destroy him, bringing in those ideas. But in the time constriction that we've got, we need to be able to solve this problem, because really what's happened is that when he becomes an evil robot, that's our problem. And then the writer has solved it by he just goes off and destroys humankind, which isn't really a resolution. We need to resolve our problem more effectively. So that's what I'm doing here. We've created this evil, he's created this evil robot here, and now I need to solve this problem of the evil robot. So as this writer wrote, he goes around burning everything in his path. And I thought, well, maybe he can go off and start destroying the whole world, but it's as I said, it's too hard. So let's keep it small and simple, and we'll just keep him on the farm. So he goes to the farmhouse, he blasts the housewife, he fries the cat, and then now being sort of attracted to fire, he sees the stovetop. So the stovetop is the thing that is going to help to destroy my robot, because I'm trying to think of a quick, simple, but effective resolution, because I don't have lots of time. So a gas stovetop, if you release the gas, it's going to explode. So if he explodes the oven or the gas top, then that's going to respond by opening up the gas pipes. Boom, big fire. And now I can start to destroy my robot with the fire, which is ironic because he was destroying other people with fire, and now he's being destroyed with fire. Now he's metal, so typically that's a very strong thing that doesn't burn. It would melt, but it would take a long time to melt. So I'm thinking, well, plastic wires are going to melt quickly. So because of the time restrictions that I have, I'm trying to think of effective but quick solutions to these problems. I can't just go, and it was all a dream, or he just destroyed everybody. I have to actually resolve my problem effectively. So here he is getting melted by the gas on this stove. And what I might do is have this connect to my resolution. Okay, so now I'm concluding my problem. So I'm trying to conclude my problem by hooking it back up to what was established by the author at the beginning of the story. So I'm doing like a bit of a sadly ever after. So I am at the beginning of the story, he was this lovely, lovely, sweet robot who wished he could be like humans. And then he turns into this evil robot. So I'm thinking, well, what about in his final dying breaths, he gets what he wants, but at the cost of dying? So that's what I'm thinking. I'm trying to hook it back up to the beginning. So resetting his program, so he needs to collapse. Okay, so I finished it off. So what I've done is I finished it off by hooking it back up to him wishing he could chew with his final bit of strength. Now, let's finish off by editing our story, which is something you may not have time to do in the 25 minutes of GAT, but hopefully, well, this is best practice, so you need to go back and edit. So he then marched to the fence, burning it to smithereens, following his fried computer chip commands. Burn, burn, burn. He strode on into the farmhouse, blasting the housewife, frying the cat, and actually we could put an exclamation mark there. Then his gaze was caught by the flame burning on the stovetop, compound sentence, and his wicked lightning eyes shot electricity at it. The stovetop exploded, filling the room with a fireball of gas, which flashed against the metal man's plutonium sides. So if you have a look at the descriptive writing activity that's in the series, linked in the description, you'll see me talking about plutonium and things like that. Instantly, his wires began to melt. Once again, as his wires melted. So I have just used the word melted. So let me think of a synonym. If I had used melt down here, that would be okay because it's been a little while since I've used the word melted, but I've only just used it. Dissolved, liquefied, as his wires liquefied. A final zap of electricity jolted through his body, resetting him to his original programming. He collapsed to the floor, his body dissolving around him. A gust of wind raced through the door. So fire, one of the things fire feeds on is oxygen. So if a wind flows in, then it's going to make the fire go, sending the flames into a flurry, which had the house burn faster. With the wind came a small piece of wheat. With his final strength, the robot reached out and put the small piece of wheat in his mouth and pretended to chew, just as he always wished he could, which is what was up here. Okay, so that was sadly ever after, and I sort of feel a little bit sad for my robot that dying wish, even though he had brought his death on himself with his evilness. It was sad. It was a sad ending to the story. Okay, that brings me to the end of the lesson. Thank you very much for joining me. So what we were looking at there was how to make sure that we are properly resolving our stories in a way that is quick but still effective. So the way that student did his, where he just goes and he went off and destroyed the world, it wasn't an effective ending, although it was quick, and he was most likely running out of time there, which is fair enough. So I was showing you there how we could have fixed that more effectively. Now, to be fair, probably I would have run over time. That was probably 30 minutes worth of writing. But nevertheless, that's the best way of ending the story. Okay, please like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It really helps me out so that I can keep on going with these videos. And also check out the rest of the videos in this series, all linked in the description box. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you at the next lesson.